should we get started?
Oh, of course we should get started. All right, welcome to day 2 of Comsverse. Good morning. Is everyone bright-tailed and bushy-eyed? Yeah. Notice I said that right. All right, well, welcome to session 1 of day 2. Luise is going to tell us about stuff. It's on the screen. Read it. She'll tell you what it says, and I will pass the mic around whenever she tells me to. Enjoy.
I like that. This is really nice, right? So I like to be just like somehow introduced. So for everyone who do not know me, hi, I'm Luise. I'm an independent Microsoft 365 and Power Platform consultant from Germany. I hope to be renewed on Friday for being an MVP. That would be pretty fine. The reason why I wear this wonderful t-shirt is because I built together with my dear friend Carmen an open source project which is called Provision Genie. It is a provisioning engine for Microsoft Teams. It runs on Power Platform, which is pretty cool, and we open sourced that. My very favorite number is 42. Who else? Thank you for that. And you can reach me on socials, and of course I write a blog as well. So in case you missed it, I'm a princess. I'm the M365 princess, so please find me there as well. If I'm not speaking at a conference, you will find me on Twitter. It's highly encouraged if you reach out to me, contact me, or follow me, and engage with me there as well. So what are we going to do today? I would like to talk with you about surprise Teams. So this is a team. How often did we hear that word Teams today already? Yesterday? Okay, so I would like to talk about Teams and how we could just like build nicer apps in Power Apps for Teams. And there is a beautiful slide that I stole from Microsoft. You know that slide? The Teams extensibility slide. It is beautiful, and it tells us that we could just like build everything for Teams. And the slide looks beautiful, and it somehow implies that the stuff that we're going to build then, that will be beautiful as well. Yeah. So the thing is, so we get this local promise. Ever saw that? That is the very official Power Apps site from Microsoft. It's just a screenshot. And what we can see is 2 times screen. Well, wait. No. What we see is 2 times screen 1, hard-coded values. Even that is ugly. I don't like this. Does it look beautiful? I don't even know if it's functional, but it is not nice. But they tell us you get started quickly, you can just like build apps super fast, everything is nice, you can integrate data, pro developers are happy, makers are happy, it's just like, it's like chocolate. It should make everyone happy. Who's happy with Power Apps? Okay, let me rephrase. The first question, who actively builds Power Apps? Okay, who advises others to build Power Apps? Okay, who never touched Power Apps at all? Who would like to? Okay. So
at the moment, they're like children. I love it, but I might not necessarily like it.
You like other people?
Yep. I get this. So that is what marketing promises us. And I feel there is a very big gap between marketing slides and actual developer experience, and then respecting user experience. And that does not necessarily only apply to Power Apps, but the entire Power Platform and beyond. So whatever marketing from whatever company tells you, they are lying. They are paid to lie. And that's fine, because that's their job. That is the ugly truth. So that is how Power Apps look like. Ever saw such a Power App? Who built that? We all built that Power App, we all did. And yes, it's functional, it does what it should, but it's super ugly. And it's not only ugly, the thing about this is that most Power Apps that I see, so this is just like, it's representing a Power App right now, okay? most Power Apps that I see in Teams, they're slow, which is an issue. Second thing is the design does not match Teams, so they do not look as if they belong there. Which leads me to users won't like it because it looks bad and it doesn't belong there and it's slow. Then we have the next issue, and that is the lack of context. And we will speak about what is context in Teams, but who of you uses dark mode everywhere? Would you like to have your Teams apps displayed in dark mode as well if you run Teams in dark mode? Yes. Who of you runs default mode? That's fine. That's fine. Brave guy in the last room. What's your name? John. John. It's fine. It's fine to run on default mode, but would you like to have your apps then running in default mode as well? Sure. Yeah, sure. So that is an example for context. What's your primary language for your browser? What language do you use? Do you use your first language? Do you use English? Would it be just like a good idea to display your apps in the language that you use anyway? Instead of having just like this awkward mix of something is in English and then perhaps something is in Italian or whatever, that would make sense. So that is context. And if we do not have this context and the design doesn't match and it's slow, then this feels wrong, because we have this weird feeling of, that shouldn't look like that, and it shouldn't be like that here. That's not cool. And the next thing that I see in most Power Apps in Teams, they're not accessible. And that might sound like a luxury issue, just like, okay, but we do not have any users with any special needs. You do, you're just not aware of them. Anyone tried to hold a baby while they were typing something? That is an accessibility need, because you're one-handed out of a sudden. It's true. So that is the Power Apps that I see. And that means it's users don't like it. It feels wrong. It's excluding to people, proactively excluding. And it might be that you say, yeah, okay, then users don't like it, and it was just like freaking dirty, and it kind of works. They will find workarounds if it's ugly and not accessible, and if they lack of context, and if the design doesn't match. And then they don't use your app. And that means that the entire time and energy and money that you spend on building that app, you just throw that out of the window. So that is not a very, very good idea. So context is different for personal apps and for tabs that we could build. For personal apps, so we can get the colors, which is called the theme. We can get the local, which is the language, and we can get the client that our user is using. They run the web client, desktop, mobile, whatever. For tabs, we can get just like them and a little bit more like the channel type. So is this a private channel, or is this a standard channel? To which team does it belong to? And so on and so forth. Doesn't make sense for personal apps because they don't run in the context of a team. This is how Microsoft advertises how applications for Teams should look like. You see those beautiful cards, and everything is just like nice looking blurple, and we have these rounded corners, and everything looks familiar to Teams users, right? So that is just now not about my personal taste, how I personally like Teams apps, because we are all different. And if you ask 10 developers, what is beautiful to you, then most probably you will get a lot of answers, but none of them is right. And we already established that if it does not look like it belongs to Teams, that users will tend to not like that, and that it tends to feel wrong for them. So as makers, or as a maker, I struggle. I really struggle because there is not a lot of guidance for Power Apps or Power Platform people how to make that thing work in the sense that I want to make it work, like accessible and fast, and the design should match, and I want to get context. There's not a lot of guidance. Our code first friends, they get a lot of guidance and sandboxes and playgrounds, and they have libraries and a lot of documentation, but there's really none of them targeting makers. And then they're just like, what? There's a React library? What should I do with that? Yeah, you shouldn't do anything with that, but because it's not advertised for you. It is not made for you, and it's not easily transferable for you. But you can take whatever is inside of that, just like all the colors, the shapes, how big, how small, everything, all these properties. You can translate them into something that matches then Power Apps. Who of you ever tried to open Power App Studio from within Teams? So did you know that you can do that? So there is a Power Apps app in Teams. And the idea by Microsoft is that you open that while you are just like collaborating with other people on whatever stuff, that you then build an app on the fly while you're doing something else. Okay, so for me that was a facepalm moment because I was like, no. Thing is, this is super poor developer experience because when I try to build an app, I'm just like totally in my zone. Don't talk to me. Do you have 5 seconds? No, I don't. I do not want to chat. I do not want to talk. I do not want to attend a meeting. I just want to build this app. What about you? Does it feel familiar? Okay, what happens if you disturb me in my zone? You don't want to know. You don't want to know. Thing is, this bad developer experience is not the only thing that is wrong with that. So Microsoft says, yeah, but if you open that studio from within Teams, then you get Fluent UI controls by default, and then everything looks nice. Fluent UI? That would be super nice. What is Fluent UI? Do you know? Does everyone know what Fluent UI is? I have a slide for that. Wait. So unfortunately, and this does not work, unfortunately there's 2 Fluent UIs for very historical reasons. So it should be the same, but it isn't. Have you ever noticed that stuff in Office, just like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, that looks different than Teams? That is because Office uses Fluent UI, and Teams uses Fluent UI North Star. And they are telling a nice story that at some point, but I don't buy that story. I don't fully buy that story. So what do you guess what now happens if I open Power App Studio from within Teams? If I ask the question like that, you can assume that you get Fluent UI, but that you do not get Fluent UI North Star. And that would be half right. Only half, because you get a super bastardized experience where the button that you want to create looks like Fluent UI, but the colors are Fluent UI North Star. So naturally, I do not like that. So that is not an option. But Microsoft tells us, yeah, you have Fluent UI if you open that in Teams, but that's not an option for me because it's not the Fluent UI that I need. And I have all the chats side by side, and I don't like that. Okay. Next thing is, yeah, you get Fluent UI controls for default mode. There was one brave person in this room who uses default mode. I know this is not representative, and of course we're a very nerdy group, so most of us will use dark mode. I'm switching between dark mode and high contrast mode. However I feel, because I have migraines very often, and then high contrast mode is the only thing that I can work on because I need to lower the brightness of my screen. So that is an issue as well. So what can we do about that? We have the bad, the ugly, and the good. And the ugly is, of course, we just like live with the default styles. We will only provide our app with the default mode, and we do not care about accessibility. That is what most makers do, because this is how it works out of the box in Power App Studio. And if we don't tell them that there is another way, then they can't know. We have the bad. That will be styling each and every control, which is a very tedious task, very, very tedious. And there's just like 100 properties for everything that you need to insert, and then you just like go look it up in the table and just like reference that. And or you hard code this, even worse. That's not nice as well. And you just like assume, you make an assumption. We know that assumptions are always wrong and that they are very, very costly in the project. We make an assumption about the theme and the local of our users. Yeah, they might speak English. Yeah, that could be. It might be that all of them are using dark mode, and then you lost John in the back, and you lost me as well. So that would be not good. Then there is, of course, the good. There is manipulating the themes.json file. Wait, what? There is a file? Yes, there is a file. So if you unpack this very opaque MS app file, that basically is a zip file, but it's a different zip file. There is a file called themes.json, and that holds all the default properties of all controls. And you can unzip that, and you can manipulate that, and then you can just like repackage that and upload it, which is quite nice, so that you then change the default style. Like when my user is just like saying, hey, I want to insert a button, that button is blurper, and that this has the hover effect that I wanted to have, and that it has the disabled state that I wanted to have, and so on and so forth, for every control. So this is, I don't know, 4 or 5K lines of JSON, and all the properties of all controls are in there. And you can just like, of course, manipulate them. And in my opinion, that is not widely known. I don't know lots of people who know that you can actually do that. So if that is the good, we would aim for that. And I did so, and I did a few things. So let me introduce you to my design goals. I wanted to build a theme that mimics Fluent UI for teams, so the North Star singing. I wanted to develop components that really match this look and feel of teams, so that this is nice if you want to have more repeatable patterns and more advanced scenarios, just like not an input control or just like text label or button, but just like something that is more advanced. We will talk about this later. And I wanted to create a reference app that showcases all of that. And of course, I did all of that, and I open sourced that because I love open source. So I will provide you with the GitHub link later. Let's switch to demo. Would that be fine? Okay. Okay. So what we have is Visual Studio Code. This is already the themes.json file. You can see it is really, really, really a long file. What I show you here is the control template button, because everyone knows what is a button. And you can see that it has, of course, a color property. So the color property lets me know, so in which color do I want to have the text that is inside of that button. That is the color property. You can see it is something like a global app styles button primary.color. So just like dot my way through this property. And all these values like dot color and dot fill and border color and whatsoever, this is then cross-referenced in the app onStart property in my app. So we need both. We need first the default styles, and then how I want to display them. that is then referenced in my application in OnStart. And in OnStart, then, I will define default, dark, and high contrast mode to make this as accessible as possible to a lot of users. Okay, let me show you how this looks like. So this is my beautiful app. Right now, this is in Power App Studio only. I will show how this looks in Teams in a few. So what we can see here, this is how a button should like. This is how a text input label should like. I will switch to preview as well. This is how my chat boxes should look like. This is how a slider should like, and so on and so forth. And now you can say, yeah, but well, I can build that as well. Yes, of course, you can build that, but it takes just like incredibly a lot of time if you style each and every single control. And what happens if I insert a button, and it's really just like insert button, then my button already looks like that. Of course, it only has the text button because I did not want to change that, but it looks and feels like Teams. It has this border radius of 4, so the slightly rounded corners. It does not have the not rounded corners. It is in the right color, and of course, it shows the hover effect that I want to have. It shows the disabled state that I want to have, and everything else as well. And just imagine the makers that you advise, or you yourself, if you build apps on your own, you had that experience. So usually, and I always find this hilarious, whoever used those themes? Did anyone do that? I feel like this is, so yes, you click on that button when you open Power Studio for the very first time, and then you never click that again, because that is totally useless. Does anyone do that in PowerPoint? No, so it is something that they stole from PowerPoint, obviously, and it's totally useless there and here as well. Wouldn't it be nice if I could just like upload, I don't know, a general theme, a Teams theme, then one for Department A, one for Department B, one for a special project, and then just like select from there, and everything adapts to the theme that I selected? Would that be nice? Yeah, I wish. But Microsoft is not really listening here, and I feel something like that should have been in the product from day one. It should not be me needing to make a theme and make this available to you. Okay, so now that we know this is possible, we can manipulate that. Let me show you what is in the OnStart property. So if I select here OnStart, you will see a lot of things. And first thing that you will notice is that I set a theme, and this works with the param function. And this is either if I get context with the param function from my host application, which then is Teams. If that value is dark, then I set this global theme dark to the value dark. And of course, a user can override that with a drop-down menu, because why not? So if you like to do that, you can do that. So this is why this is an R, so you can always do that. But by default, it just grabs what is now selected as context. Then I get the language, and then these are all my Fluent UI design colors. So I have them here. And then I reference them in my global app styles. And these global app styles, let me show you. This is icons. So if it's the high contrast theme, the color is that value. If it's dark, it's that value. And else, which means it's default, it's that value. Which means if I now have my icon color property referenced in this themes.json, so that I already have a default value, then it picks up those values and reflects the theme, like dark, default, and high contrast, and displays it exactly like my user chose to do, either by getting context if the app runs in the context of Teams. And if there is no context of Teams, I can still mimic this behavior with a simple drop-down control. That's what we're doing here. And I know this is just like having this in two places, but it ensures that if you need a fourth mode for whatever reason, you can do that in your app. And you do not need to necessarily play with the theme again. And if you only want to provide two modes, which is maybe for mobile, because there is no high contrast theme on mobile available, then you can choose to do that here as well. Okay, so we have these default controls, and everything looks nice, and I have my combo box, and I can select my items here, and it looks nice, and of course I have the drop down, and it looks nice as well, and I have the star control. Everything is just like super sweet, right? Who of you ever tried to deal with the date picker control? Who loves the date picker control? Should be easy, right? I mean, you select that, and then you get this calendar pop-up, and it looks okay, right? It looks okay. So I can then just like say, hey, I want to select that date, and click OK, and then it matches that. So I selected a date, and I could write this somewhere. The problem with that is I will now switch to dark mode here, and everything adapts. So this is fine. All my controls look like they belong there. And now I select this date picker again. Oh boy. Should I show high contrast? Wait, let me show high contrast. That's even worse. Boom. That is what you get. And I already manipulated this, oh wait, that's the wrong drop down. Let me switch to default mode again. I already manipulated this area here, so that header, and I already manipulated that one, and here, and this one. But there is a problem. There is no property in the themes.json file for this background. And if there is no property, I can't change the value of that property. So it was like, I'm screwed. So what will I do now? So what I did is I created a component, not a code component, just a canvas component to match that. Let me show you what I did and how this works. So I created here this date picker. Let me check this. And it looks quite similar. I wanted to have it slightly in a different way because I wanted to switch back and switch forth years as well. Maybe for your birthday, I do not want to click a button too much, and this is 10 years and 10 years here as well, and I like that way more. And I didn't want to have the OK and cancel button here. I just wanted to have this this check mark at the top. Now let's switch the theme and see what happens. That looks good, right? So we go high contrast mode. Sweet, I like it. So that works, and of course I can pass that value then that goes straight in this date picker then here again, that is already in the right date format as you want it to look. So you can change that if you want to have this long date or long dates time and whatsoever. The other components that I did here is, so I like this donut chart with that slider. You know, whenever we have an input box in Teams, there is this underline here, this border, but only at the bottom. You can't do that out of the box in a control. You need to create a component for that in Power Apps, which is hilarious, by the way. I mean, come on. Yeah, I want to have a border. Where do I want to have that border? Do I want to have this everywhere? No, you can't build that. You need to create a component for that. What else did I do? such bot thingies here, like it components. So do you agree, disagree, strongly disagree? I don't care, whatever. Then this carousel component, which is always nice if you just want to guide a user through something. So right now, it's not doing something. This is just the design that I provide with you. And this coach mark here, which gives you just like 2 different options on how to do stuff. What else is in my app? It is something like that. So this is how a Teams app is supposed to look. So yes, we don't have data in here, so show me some data. So I abused my friends and I asked them, what's your favorite ice cream? So I learned that there is something like kiwi ice cream. We can select all of them and just like reward them with chocolate and send them ice cream. So this is how it should look like. And we know how Power Apps do look like. And you will notice something. Can you see this drop shadow here? You need to inject inline CSS to do that. So you can do this in an HTML text control in Power Apps. There are generators for that. So especially for box shadow, you will find them, just like CSS generator for everything. It gives you exactly what you need. You would just like exchange where you want to have that box shadow and you will be fine. Something like that of course you want to search here. I want to search for Tomasz, by the way, and of course it will reflect this. So that is all quite easy to build, but not quite easy to build in a beautiful manner. And yet again, it is not about my personal taste. When Teams came out, who of you struggled with that color? Now we embrace that because we're used to that. But back then, I mean, come on, So now we want to have it exactly like that. Next thing that I did is, so who loves a good pie chart? So I don't like pie charts, but my customers like them. So, and then I rather like the pie charts to look like that than the default pie chart that you get in a Power App, which is just like all colors of the rainbow. So it looks wrong there. So it's colorful, but it's too colorful. And then the the bar chart as well. So this is out of the box like that if you use that themes.json file. And you can have that because I open sourced that, and the only thing that you need to do is use the Power Platform CLI, unpack the app, manipulate this themes file, and you can use mine, just like replace that, and then repackage that with the CLI again, and refresh your app. That is the only thing that you would need to do for that. So now that we covered that, let me show you how this now looks on GitHub. So I'm in the PNP team, and of course this is now in the Power Apps sample. So my PR was approved yesterday. How convenient is that, right? So I did not do this on my own, but I have extensive documentation on that. So you get what is the context, how do the controls look like. So I recorded little GIFs of all of that, just like this is how the button looks like. And you can see that we have an on-hover effect and how this behaves in the 3 different design themes that we have available in our Power Apps. And this, I did that for every single control that I have, and even for stuff that I did not show you yet. So I usually don't use tables in Power Apps. I rather use galleries because they are way more flexible to me, because then I can just like determine what I want to have in the gallery. Okay, so if you want to have that, it is github.com/pnp/powerapps-samples, and you will find the Fluent UI for Teams sample in there. My dear colleague Fabio Francini, he did the very same thing for Fluent UI without Teams. So if you want to build something that is not meant to be to live in Teams, but you still want to have it to look like this office look, like the not the North Star, the other Fluent UI, then you will find this there as well. So how did I do this with those components? And of course, those are included in the reference app that you will find on GitHub as well. If we check this calendar date picker control, so why did I choose that awkward name? Because it is, so first I created 2 components for that, because it is the date picker. And then you get this pop-up calendar. And then I figured I needed to pass values from one component to the other, and there was no real reason why that would need to be 2 separate components, so I made this to be one component, but of course you can pass those, but it makes it harder for you then to use this, because then you need to have output properties as well. So what we do is, in such a component, so this is here the date picker component. We have some input controls, which is the header styles for the header of that calendar. We have the body, we have the date picker styles, we have an input date, because yet again, this is not the original date picker control, but it's just a regular input field, like where you write text into that. So we needed to just like mimic this behavior and just like trick a little bit, and I can show you how this works. So that is my date picker, and you can see date picker 2. So that was the second attempt to just like get things right. And I have this this button so that I can hover over it, so that my users get this index finger. How is it called? The index finger, right? But that your cursor turns like that, and then I mimic that icon here with the calendar icon, and then we have the label itself, and the label just gives me, this is the day, so that is just like date control that we inserted here. And after that, of course, we need to click on that, and we want to display this calendar. And of course, there's way more to discover, but we have this header, and it has these icons, and I just used 2 galleries to display the weekdays, and the other gallery to display all the weeks, all the days then within these weekdays. And because I'm from Germany, I want to start my week on Monday. You can change that. So if you like to start the week on Sunday, that's fine to me. You can start it on Wednesday as well, so I don't care. But it's confusing to users, so please do what is just like, what is usual, what is common where you live or where your users live. So that is something as well that we can do to make it easier for users to do the right thing. So I can't tell you the amount of things that I plan to do on a Sunday, but thinking about it would be Monday, just because the calendar showed the first column for me is always Monday, and then I plan things on a Sunday, because users don't read. Who agrees? I'm a user as well, and I never read, so it's, I just like assume that the first column would be Monday. Okay, so you can get all these components, and of course you can manipulate them as well. So if you don't like it that way but need to tweak them, I'm totally fine with that. So you can totally do that. And regarding those input controls, you can see that so if you have a component, it does not have access to the onStart property of your app, because technically the component is not inside of your app. It's its own app. It's displayed like it is in your app, but you can't access those values. So it tells you, hey, I did not recognize this. So that is, of course, an issue. So that you would need to do that to reference all your properties for all the colors that you want to have in this component, and then this is an input. In an input property. So you can see for the drop-down I have the border color, and then again I reflect the different themes that I want to run my app in, and then I cross-reference these app colors that I define, and then it works. And this is pretty neat, so that all my colors in my component match the app then itself again. We needed to have one output property here. Why would we need that? Because I only wanted to display this part here after my user clicked that part here over there. So only if my user tries to select something from my date picker, which is technically not a date picker, but which looks like a date picker, and my user will never know. And you won't tell them, okay? Do we have a deal? That would be nice. And only then I want to display that. And in order to do that, we needed to have this output property because you can't access this visibility property from within the component. Okay, and once I confirm this, then this here gets updated, so I can see, this is the day that my user selected, which is super cool. Input property, date and time, and yet again, you can choose the format, and you can even extend that to a time picker control as well. So if you want to just like use this for making appointments or something like that, you can use that. Is this passively, aggressively telling me, hurry up, wrap it up, Luise? Okay, this is cool. Let me show you still how this looks in Teams. It blends. So even if that app does not really have a purpose right now, it's only to show the controls and components here, but it blends into the look and feel. So we have a decent navigation. I can expand that. I can collapse that. Everything looks nice and clean, and it does not look like a Power App anymore. And that is the design goal. Don't make them feel cheap. Because if Microsoft tells us, yeah, low code is so easy and everyone can build an app and everyone should be building apps, no, please don't. Then it feels like kind of cheap to users as well, and they don't feel valued. And I think it is better to not make it super obvious that something is just low code. So I can promise you there's a lot of code to write. But low code should not mean low standards. It should mean that you put the same amount of thoughts and ideas and business value into your app as if you would code it with, I don't know, what you want to use. You can build apps in several ways, but I feel users deserve that they have a good experience. So, wrapping this up.
Sorry, can you change the theme in Teams? That's the final.
So what I can now do is I manipulated the default theme, which means that if you upload this themes.json file, that from now on your app will have these default style for all controls that you insert, and you can put the components that I referenced into a component library if you want to, and then they are accessible to all your makers for all their apps that they are going to build. And that, of course, is the goal. So, let's see. Demo, okay, always good. So, bonus, use my sample app. You will find this Fluent UI for Teams theme on github.com/pnp/powerappsamples, because that would be the better version, so it's not only good. So yes, you can build that, and highly encourage that you do some steps, but if you're lazy like me, steal it from someone else who already did that. This is fine for me. You can do that. So I like memes. Who's familiar with that one? Yeah. Okay, so living with default styles and not caring at all, that is not preferred, and styling everything works, kind of, but we can't style everything. An example would be the calendar. which is literally pain in the ass. Manipulating the themes.json file would be a really, really good way, but as I already did that, you can steal my work. How to get this? Open this. Oh, I should have changed that, so my PR was approved yesterday, so bear with me. Download this MS app file, open it in Power App Studio, and if you want to manipulate this file still, fork and clone that repository, follow the provided steps, and you will be fine with that. Lessons learned. Please never, and I stumbled upon that, use the Git integration in Power App Studio. You can't manipulate the themes.json file, because if you push again from Visual Studio Code and you update Power App Studio, then it will override with the default theme what you already did. And it took me 2 hours to figure this out because there is no information on that. So please don't do that and do proper export import. Also, lesson learned, never start only with default and dark mode. Please always think about high contrast mode as well, because I did so in another app, Provision Genie, and it was literally so exhausting to later do the same thing over and over again just for the high contrast mode, so don't do that. Do useful things with the param function, like get the local of users, get the theme that they are using, and get the client that they are using, so that you can just like display the experience that you want them to experience, because you're the developer. And then invest time in building components that are reusable. Do it once, the right time, which will be a huge time saver, so that is our return on investment. And with that, please ask smart questions. Thank you.